kids are masters at making you feel bad or working their hardest to make you seem like you're totally ruining their life when actually you're actually protecting them.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central and the new mascot for the Toronto Raptors.
Who's that?
I'm not wearing a hat.
You mean the person who's pretending to be a Raptors fan? Drew Solon from Dad Central.
All right, and we are here, Dad Central. We are the co-hosts, co-producers of Dad Central Parenting Podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. What's been going on, Drew?
Well, the reason I'm wearing the Raptors hat is one, it's my son's, and two, it's freezing in here, and so it's to keep me warm while we do this recording. Not because the Raptors are good or doing well this year at all.
Well, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And where we are in, I guess, the greater Toronto area, or greater Southern Ontario area, like last night in my neck of the woods, it was like minus 30 degrees Celsius. So for those who don't know what that means in the old scale, I guess around 20 degrees below zero with wind chill. Was it that chilly out there, Drew?
I didn't know it got that cold. I thought it was like around minus 15 here, but maybe with the wind chill, I could say, yeah, it was cold.
All right. Well, let's get to it and let's get warm Drew up by having another epic conversation on the show. So today we're going to be speaking about ending screen time battles for good and eradicating the stress it causes at home. And the three things we're going to chat about today: understanding why screen time battles happen, also strategies to end screen time battles, and then finally, reducing screen related stress for the whole family. So, Drew, how did this topic come about?
Well, I shared a brief story at Dad Mentor last night how Sophia gave me my Christmas card, but it wasn't until like January 20th. And the reason it took so long is because I enacted a new technology policy over the holidays, and she was not too happy about it. So I think that's why you wanted to pick on me.
No, I didn't want, I thought it was relevant and current. And it's a lived experience. So, and you're probably not alone. In fact, you're not alone. Not probably, you're not alone. So let's kick it off about understanding why screen battles happen. Do you want to kick off with that, or you want me to touch in about that?
Excuse me. Uh, Screen time. Well, screens are everywhere, and quite frankly, looking at Eliana, she's 21 months. She's like a moth to a flame with screen. And when screens are everywhere, we have them. We're on them. It's just part of the day to day, and they're designed by these brilliant people who know exactly how our brains work to keep our attention on them. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it's so much a challenge. And I know that Drew and we talk a lot offline about y- younger and younger children having screens and having phones. And I think, Drew, was it one time you told me you saw like a 3 or 4-year-old having their own cell phone?
I don't know if it's their own, but they were operating it like it was their own. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, and I agree with Drew. It's unavoidable in today's world. And and it causes, as Drew said, it causes challenges like the resistance, there can be tantrums, and like more and more I can see from my lens, more and more young people are depending on the screen more than humans.
Yeah, and it's sad because when we attended the Dove screening of that movie a few years ago, you saw the main culprit in this young girl's poor choices. Or the bottom line is, social media and the screen was really the catalyst for some of the real struggles she had with how she viewed herself. And the research is pretty unequivocal about the impact on screens and social media on our young people's mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah, from your lived experience, Drew, you're really in it. How is it impacting good and not good in your household?
Well, I mean, it all depends, right? Some kids have unlimited access to content that they never should have access to, and they get it through these screens. In my house, there's a little bit more of limits, and both in terms of content as well as time. So the effect, I think, if I'm remembering your question, is that it really just affects their attention and their sometimes their moods and their ability to focus on actual responsibilities and elements that are part of contributing to a family. So, and then it impacts on both Krista and my ability to be patient with them when you have a busy household. You have 5 kids, you got different demands, you got expectations. So, does that answer that question?
Yeah, I no, absolutely. And and to me, I've seen it impacts kids' behavior, their sleep, and I'm no expert, but something tells me too, it can also have impact on some children's mental health. And
Right.
what they're yeah, like what you had mentioned there briefly about what they're seeing on the screen. Sometimes what they're probably seeing on the screen is not good to emulate, and they're making comparison, saying, "Hey, if I'm not this, how can I be good? How can I be a good kid if I'm not this?" Like the imagery, sometimes not good imagery that they're seeing, and it can affect their mental and emotional health. You want to add on to that?
Just want to put an exclamation point on it. I 100% see the content that these kids are consuming, and it's shocking, it's sad, it's scary, and it's um, destructive.
Do you think with fathers and male caregivers and dads, there's a challenge balancing boundaries and even sometimes some frustration?
100%. You know, some parents have boundaries, some parents don't. Sometimes our kids are around other kids who don't have those boundaries, and then they come back, and that's a problem. Sometimes you realize, shoot, I'm always on my screen too, so I feel a bit guilty, limiting my kids because hey, I'm always on my screen too. So or the kids just really backlash. I mean, and that can be hard because you're like, am I doing the right thing? The kids are masters at making you feel bad or working their hardest to make you seem like you're totally ruining their life when actually you're actually protecting them.
Yeah, 100%. Fully agree with that. So, our key takeaway in regards to understanding why screen time battles happen is, screen time battles stem from natural tensions between kids' desires and parents' responsibilities. So, the key thing is understanding the why is the key thing when you're addressing why is this so important to your child or children, and addressing the why. Because if you don't know the why, it's already an uphill battle. It's just gonna be more challenging. Go ahead.
I want to add one point to this that maybe adds to an example in our house is Kristen really struggles with the technology, both from a sense of some of it's confusing to her, but also she sees the inability of the child to withdraw or sorry, let go of it and then re-engage like in a proper like human to human interaction. And that's like a trigger for her. It drives her nuts. And so she goes from like 0 to I'm gonna say 50, not 100, 0 to 50 like really quickly. Whereas I can be like, "Okay, I'm at 0, I'm at 10, I'm at 20, I'm at 30." So we have to balance each other out. And so I think that relates to what you were sharing.
100%. Thanks for that share. Good stuff. Well, let's talk about some strategies for building on what you just said, strategies for staying calm in the moment. Uh, Not an easy thing.
No, strategies to end screen time battles.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna start off saying that setting clear expectations, right? Setting screen time rules and boundaries in advance. So during this time, you can access the screen. Other times don't. One of the things I think Drew and I have mentioned in past conversations, especially if you're having dinner or lunch or food together, is really, really, really important. So, want to say how important that is to just have that boundary right there. Drew, you want to continue on?
Yeah, it's once you establish a limit or boundary, it's being consistent with it. And every single time in our house, there's almost always a pushback. There's an attempt to, "Oh, how can I get around it?" Like, they're so smart. They learn right away, "Oh, well, dad, you know, dad's okay when I listen to Adventures in Odyssey, but it's on my device. So, oh, can I listen to Adventures in Odyssey while I'm cleaning my room? Can I do?" So they get very adept at trying to manipulate and navigate it. So you have to be really consistent and clear as you're moving forward.
I'd be curious. I'd love to ask dads, is it more challenging to come up with a boundary or keeping to the boundary?
I would absolutely say it's keeping to the boundary.
Okay. Okay.
That's me. So one of the things that we've done
Go ahead.
is we have a contract. It's a digital device use contract. There are 17 points. Now, I didn't create this. Dr. Laura Markham had a cell phone use agreement contract, and I took it and modified it. And we use that as the basis and then adjust based on some of the things that we've seen in the house. And that's what we have had every child sign if they're going to begin using digital devices. And then we went through it point by point and gave them opportunity to ask any questions, make sure it's crystal clear, and then we had them sign it. And so that is establishing the boundary, and of course, it's up to us to be able to consistently apply. So we just really have this as a point. Hey, are you following the contract? Are you following the contract? And so it's very easy to go back to and stay as consistent as possible because it's laid out clearly for everyone. So that's what we found, and that's one of the reasons that Sophia was unhappy. She resisted signing the contract for a long, long time, and we said, "Listen, either you sign or you get no. You're not using any device. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts."
All right. Draw the line. Draw the
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to ask, did you go to that resource after other things weren't working, or was that a say, let's find something? Were other things not working and you look for alternatives?
Well, this is where you're getting into the nuance of our circumstance. So, Sophia was given a phone by her father before she came into my home. My children, who are younger than Sophia, do not have a phone or do not have any other digital device that is their own. And so it was this blending challenge where Sophia had been given access and her mom had not necessarily created some limits that aligned with what I felt was appropriate for our household. So we had some adjusting there, and then we had some pushback and resistance, and we've slowly had Sophia learn and connect. And then the newest circumstance, and this is maybe a whole other podcast, my children's mother made a decision on her own and bought all three of the children iPads. And uh, without consulting in the expectation. I don't know what her expectations. I can't speak for her. And so that was thrust upon me over the holidays of like now all of a sudden my kids have iPads. With so we have had to figure out how are we going to navigate this. Obviously, I want to allow my children, if their mom has made the decision to put iPads in their hands, to allow them to use them responsibly and respectfully. So there's been some interesting how do we develop? So, yes, there's been initial, but there's always been evaluation and adaptation as the circumstances change.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. It's really good. That's really good. Thanks for sharing. As we close out this conversation topic, things we can all suggest, all alternatives. Create some non-screen time activities that you can do with your kids. And then, as Drew said, involving your kids in setting time limits by getting a buy-in. In their case, him and Kristen's case, they had a contract. Find out what works best and implement it and stay consistent. And then also, you can use technology as an ally. You can create apps and feature for managing screen time use, which is a thing I don't think a lot of parents are aware of, that you can limit how much time they're on sites at certain sites, especially social media
or on
areas
their device.
or on
Yeah,
their
so this
device.
is one of the steps that we took with Sophia early on because she struggled with the self-control, and so, I put on limits, and she, like, revolted at the fact that the limits were there, and so we've had several sort of, uh, going back and forth, but limits and using the parental controls, absolute must.
Good stuff. So when we talk about strategies to end screen time battles, the key takeaway in this piece is winning the screen time battle requires clear rules, consistency, and cooperation with your kids. So our final topic is reducing screen time related stress for the whole family. For the whole family. So Drew, you want to kick it off there?
Yeah, the old adage, "Much more is caught than taught," applies here. How are my screen habits? When my kids are around or the family's around, am I always with my face in my screen? Do I notification come in and I'm like, "Oh, pop right out right away," or do I have discipline? Do I leave my phone in the device bin until it's needed when I and then do I go and make my call and then come back and re-engage without it? Or am I constantly inundated by that screen and showing that to my kids? So we have to how are our screen habits influencing our kids? Number 1. And then, I talked about the bin. We have a location. Here's where all the devices go. This is where they're charged. This is where they sit when they're resting. They are not in rooms. They're not in bedrooms. They're not, they are there. And that's the location they belong. And generally, dinner time is a screen-free zone. Movie night, game night, like, there's no screens in these spaces for us, and we don't allow screens in bedrooms. So, you've gotta create these screen-free zones and screen-free times so that there's an understanding you're not constantly being interrupted, and you've gotta lead that.
Yeah. And I'll just add on to quality over quantity. So encourage educational or creative screen use over passive consumption. And what do I mean by passive consumption? Social media, right? That's passive consumption. So try, do your best to encourage your child or children educational and creative screen use. And also, when they stick to the limits, celebrate it and say, "Hey, really good job." When critical when you're a dad, any area of positive achievement, you want to celebrate it right then and there, no matter how big or how small it is. It will reduce potential pushback when it comes to screen use. And then,
Can I just share a quick story about that? So, with the contract, we also said, "We need your passcode so that we can go in and see the content you're consuming." And so, Jordan, went back to his mother's for a period of time and then came back to us, and in the he actually changed his screen time passcode. But he came to us and says, "Hey, dad, I want you to know I changed my passcode." Like, and I was like, "Okay, great. Let me just go put it on the contract," right? But that showed responsibility and not, trying to hide things. And so I celebrated that. I was like, "Jordan, I love how responsible you're being with this. You understand the rules." And so the more you do that, when they do these little steps, I think it teaches them that this is responsible, this is good, and then they feel affirmed for the choices that they're making. So good. So good.
absolutely, absolutely great. Another great take from Drew there, and it's real life existence. So, in our last key takeaway for today in regards to reducing screen related stress for the whole family, reducing screen time is not about creating is about sorry, not it is about creating balance and fostering healthier habits for the entire family. So you want to set up the family together. Great examples starting with if you're a dad, if you have a partner, or if you're on your own, you set the standard and it will come on through. So what we finish off today are three things or takeaways. Understanding, oh, sorry, wrong thing. There we go. Understanding why screen time battles happen. We've also given you strategies to end screen time battles, and then reducing screen related stress for the whole family. What is our takeaway for today, Drew? How do we encourage people to find out some more?
Well, I encourage you to take a look at our Dad Mentor community because within it, we have a whole resources, including our digital dad, an age by age guide to managing and building healthy screen time habits. And then we've got like a whole guide to screen free activities that dads can do with their kids at different ages and stages. And so those are just some of the smaller resources that are part of Dad Mentor when you join. And of course, you've got this collective of fathers who understand, know, and experience similar things to you and have tried different things and tested out. And you can hear their stories, you can hear their guidance and feedback, and you can figure out what's going to work best for you to apply it. So, Dad Mentor is our resource to pursue after this.
Yeah, strongly encourage. I make suggest that if you're a dad that you need help, and I don't think any dad doesn't need help. There's always at least one area you need help with. We have a community of dads that bring all sorts of expertise, real life stories, real life challenges, and real life victories when it comes to being a dad. So it's a great community to be part of. So as always, want to say our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because the men care for themselves and others. There's a positive impact. And as always, we'd like to say thank you for taking the most important thing in your life, your time, to listen, and we encourage provide feedback. We want to hear what's going on and how we can assist or just how we're doing or any things we can do to help you become the best dad you can be. So as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace and take care, and we'll see you soon.